Final video for tonight, telling time part 2. This one you need to know a lot of Spanish vocabulary. I'm not gonna go over that. That's something that you should probably do in your own time. This is just a tutorial. And I wrote down some example sentences, but I'm gonna teach you some stuff definitely worth going over. And the first is how to ask for time. The word for time is horas, right? Horas. And that came from Spanish, meaning hours. Horas. Anyway, the common way of saying what time is it is unsay oras na. Assuming that you're asking what time is it now, is unsay oras na. Sometimes you can hear people say unsay oras karon. Remember what karon meant. I'm not gonna go over that in this video. I went over that in the previous video. Karon. Unsay oras karon. Or you can say unsay oras na, right? And I wrote down that unsay with the y postfix, meaning that it was asking, or we're talking about a subject. The ang changes to an e postfix because we're asking about time, right? We want to know the time. That's our subject, time. So what does E follow? The horas, right? Or horas follows after E, whatever. They just correlate with each other. Unsay oras na, unsay oras karon, right? Sometimes you'll have two of them too, because we want to know the subject of the other thing, or we're talking about the subject of another thing and we want to know the time of that sentence as well. So I wrote down other example sentences. For example, unsay oras ang misa sa buntag, right? Unsay oras ang misa sa buntag, meaning what time is mass tomorrow, or what time is mass in the morning, or tomorrow morning. I didn't say ugma sa buntag, but you can say that ang misa sa ugma sa buntag, right? Or ang misa ugma sa buntag, either or, right? So buntag meaning morning, sa, remember that preposition, in the morning, and ang misa we're talking about, we want to know about the time for this subject, mass, right? If you're going to church, whatever, unsay oras ang misa sa buntag. And the last example I wrote down includes a verb, right? A verb right here, because, you know, I want to show you how it works with a verb involved. So for this one, we can say, unsay oras musugod ang piyesta sa gabi. Right? I just kind of incorporated everything we learned from the past video as well, and verbs. Right? Unsay oras musugod ang piyesta sa gabi, which means what time will the party start at night? Okay, verb again, sugod meaning to begin, to commence, to start, to begin, yeah. And then we have that mo, which indicates it's a future aspect. That's something I'll go over in another video for aspects again. But mo is indicating future aspect of certainty. Something is gonna start for sure. And then again, fiesta, ang always goes before the subject. Again, preposition here, sa gabi, at nighttime, or to the nighttime, to the night, right? Sometimes you can answer, if someone asks a question and they have sa involved, for example, ang misa sa buntag, right? So unsay oras ang misa sa buntag, you can answer again with optional sa, and to answer again in format of time, we use one of two ways, right? Sa alas and then blank, or sa alauna. Una takes only ala, right? And that's the only exception because una is singular in Spanish, but all the others that are plural from two to whatever take alas. You have to have that s there. That's just a remnant of Spanish grammar in Cebuano grammar. It's weird how it works, but it's just borrowed that way. You can never say alas una. That doesn't work. It doesn't make sense, and it won't make sense either in Spanish if you studied Spanish. But a la una works, which means at 1 o'clock. A la una just means 1 o'clock. If you want to specify, you can say a la una sa gabi, which is like, I guess, in the morning-ish, like at dark time, 1 o'clock in the morning sa gabi, or you can say like 1 o'clock in the morning sa buntag, a la una sa buntag ish. But yeah, whenever the sun is not there and it's that 1 o'clock, or alauna sa hapon, which means 1 o'clock in the afternoon, if you want to specify. But alauna just means 1 o'clock. Sa alauna, or let's just put an example here. Alas tres, right? Sa alas tres means like at 3 o'clock. Sa alas tres. What else can I say about this? You're always gonna use these two format, ala or alas, depending. Ala una or alas something. So here's an example sentence that I wrote on the bottom as well. Okay, verb. Mimata ako sa alas 4:30. So that's gonna be what? In Spanish, 4:30, you have to use the Spanish again. The Spanish number if you're telling time. That's just a borrowed thing, a borrowed concept from Spanish is telling time, or time that is measured. Before, just a little thing I should say is like before Spanish colonization happened, time told in indigenous Cebuano was used by the position of the sun. If the sun was rising in the morning or just freshly in the morning, they would just use the word buntag, and then udto, and then hapon, and then gabi. It's just the position of the sun. However, after Spanish colonization and language contact, they adopted the whole telling time from the Spanish point of view, right? So a lot of this is just Spanish for you, right? Mimata ako, which means I wake up, right? Mimata ako sa alas 4:30, which means I wake up at 4:30. Cuatro is 4:30, meaning half, right? 4:30. It's just simply 4:30. I didn't specify where or when during the time of day. It's just 4:30. Here's another example is that you can still use that same sentence, right? May mata ako sa alas, and then I'll just put down another one, which is a little longer. Sa alas 5:45 sa buntag, right? 5:45, which means 5:45. 5:45. 45 means 45 in Spanish, sa buntag. Okay, this time I specified it. I put sa and buntag, right? In the morning. So I wake up at 4:45 in the morning is mimata ako sa alas 5:45 sa buntag. But you have to know your Spanish again. Numbers, just kind of stressing that out, because you can't use the indigenous derived numbers. I explained that in an earlier video, which numbers to use, the ordinal or cardinal or whichever ones, because there's two systems. Anything dealing with time of the day, weeks, any calendar things, things relating with a clock, just things in time, you have to use the Spanish-derived word numbers, or the Spanish-derived system for numbers. Whereas if you're using things to measure and count, or if you're just gonna like measure words, counting pieces of things, those kind of things, counter, you have to use the indigenous derived words. And that's something I don't make up. That's just how the language evolved. It's just a rule. So that's something you'll have to learn on your own. But if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask.